All right, Chevra, good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three prakim Rambam, Hilchos Mechira prakim Dalid, Hey, and Vav, beginning with Perek Dalid. We are going to learn in this chapter more rules and prerequisites when it comes to the transference of metaltalin. Perek Revi has 15 halachas. Says that I'm a malach al. Kel Yoshel Adam, a container owned by a person, wherever he has permission to place it, which means either it's his property or it's a place right off the Reshus Harabim, right, a simta in which everyone has the Reshus, has the permission to place their kelim. So then, koinaloi, as we already mentioned yesterday, Yakir, there's a concept called kinyan chatzer. Yeah, I know what chatzer means, your yard, your property. What we already learned yesterday, right? An eved, a behemo, they're yours. Something in it, obviously there has to be gmiras das, to sell, to buy, but the fact that that item is in your keli, it will acquire it for you. The kivin shenasu amataltal in betecha keli, then ein echad mehem yochal lachzer by. It's amazing. And v'harei zeh kemi shehegbiyoin oy kemi shehunchu b'toich beisoy. Mamash. King and Chatzir, that's called a king and Chatzir. Now, lefikach, therefore, what, since you have to, it's only kind of if you place the keli where you have reshus to place it, ein keli you should only kind of like reshus harabim, because people don't have reshus to put their things in the middle down of the street, and certainly not v'lei reshus hamaychid. Ela imkein amalei hamakne, who also happens to be the meicher, leich uknei beklei zeh gevaldik. And I want you to know, Yakir, that when a meicher tells a lekeach, it's good to know these dinim, that leich uknei beklei zeh, it's as if he told him, I am leasing out the place for you. Verstehst? V'chein im kolna hakli tchila v'gbiyaim. In other words, if the meicher is selling a keli and peiros, if the lekeach first makes a normal kinyan, that we learned in the yesterday, Perek Gimel, he makes hagbah, and then he places the keli, this very keli that he just bought, b'reshus hamoicher, and then they come to an understanding regarding the produce, and the produce was not lifted, but the produce is placed in this keli, kivin shenasu b'toich keli zeh kana oison. Right here, you don't even need for the meicher to say leich uknei beklize. Why? What's if you didn't buy the keli proper? He needs to say that he's keilu renting out the place. Here, you bought already the keli. He's happy. You bought two things from him. It's as if he actually rented out the place of the keli, and therefore the keli is, so to say, in your reshus, where it's placed with permission, and it will acquire for you. Allah base. Kshem she'ein keli shalekech koine lebreshus meicher. Ka chevra halkop ein keli shal meicher. Koine lalekeyach. Even though the keli of the meicher is in the reshus of the lekeach. In other words, a keli, which is like an extension of a chotzer, my keli cannot make a kinyan for you. My keli can only make a kinyan for me. Halacha gimel. Misira that we touched upon, lachatchila hagbah. If you can't do hagbah, you make meshicha. If it's so heavy and it's very difficult to do meshicha, then you hand over the reins of an animal, the rope that people would use to move the shit to the buyer. Misira. Misira eino kaina ela b'reshus harabim or b'chatzer she'eino shal shneim. That's a rule. Another rule. HaMeshicha eino koina ela b'simta, which is an alley right off the Reshus Harabim, oy b'chatzer shal shneim. And what's unique about hagbah, like we mentioned already yesterday, that hagbah is koina b'chol makoim. Halacha daled. Davar hanikna b'meshicha. Im hoy b'Reshus Harabim. And as we just mentioned, that meshicha is not koina b'Reshus Harabim, but the buyer moved it, was moishechet to his reshus hayachid or into a simta. That's good. Even if it's only mitzvahs, then you're going to be koinem. Halacha dal. Ka'oin shel peiros, a load of produce. And as we just learned in the end of Gimel, that the end of Halacha Dalet, that which is good, or into a symptom, after they establish the price, you're going to ask, what's the chiddush? I'll tell you the chiddush. Even though they didn't measure, you have to understand that. In other words, once we decided that per pound, I'm going to pay you $1. I don't need prior to the kinyan for me to know how many pounds. We already came to an understanding. And later we'll be moided. How much was I moishech? It's 5.5 pounds. Okay, $5.5. That's a good chiddush that. And we don't say, to have gemiras das, you have to know exactly what you're buying. You know what you need? You need to know exactly what you're paying per pound. That's what you need to establish. Same concept. That what? Here the opposite. He was moided. In other words, even though Mishicha in the Rishus Harabim is not effective, but when you measure something, you have to hold it. That holding it becomes Dagba. Now, all of this is that they already established a price per pound. But he was putting it inside the keli of the Lekeach. The Lekeach made no Hagba'ah, loikana. As we began in this chapter, when do we say that a keli of a person is kind of for the person? Only if it's placed in a place where you have reshus to place it, and that's not in the reshus harabim. In keli shalikeach kind of live reshus harabim. Hoya peres reshus alikeach, and which, in other words, if there would have been a agreement, kinyan chatzah, kiven shekivel olav hamoichel limkoir. Once the moicher was masking to the sale, kana halikeach. How King and Chatzid, Afapisha Dailei Madad, like we mentioned before. Hoy Bereshus Amaycher, Oy Bereshus Shehem Mufkadim Etzloi. In other words, there was a third person. Reuven, guys, has produce in the property of Shimon. Reuven is discussing selling it to Levi. Leikana Halikeach, Levi won't acquire it. Achek Bia Peres, just because the Reshus of Shimon doesn't help him. As we learned in Pei Gimel, because once you're soicher the reshus, then it is in the reshus alevi. Halacha zayin. Hoya peres besimtam in this alley or corner or side street off the reshus harabim. Oy bechatz shal shneim afilo hoy bereshus lekeach, which mamish a typical king in chatzer. However, the opposite. Now, the kibul olav hamoicher limka. The hischil hamoicher limdoit betoich kelya shal moicher. What do you think, Yakir? It's in the keli of the moicher. Im amaloi koir b'shloishim sela ani moicher lach. What is he trying to say? That he's selling him a koir is 30 sa'ah. Then we say the sale is only final when you measured out the entirety of the 30. So that's the whole key of the beginning of this halacha. So therefore, ligamar kol amido ve'ekilia shel moicher ein lekech afal pishu b'shus lekeach. But there's a big chiddush here. But im amar lekoir b'shloishim, which means a koir is 30. Seller, saw of the seller. So we specify that every saw will be sold for a seller. The chiddush, guys, here is that the moicher is putting it in the keli of the moicher. Rishon kana. Every time you come to the measure of a saw, the sale is final. Kiven shepasak adamim al kol saw of a saw. So kol saw sheyagbia hamoicher v'yira oisa nigman amalachtoy. Now listen to this. Now, guys, it's not a bereshus hamoicher. The peiros is in the keli of the moicher, but don't forget, it's not in the reshus of the moicher. And v'loi bereshus harabim, which means the keli is in a location where the moicher had permission to put his keli down.
Can you explain it a little bit with an example, please?
First of all, we said, let's go back, that whenever a moicher is selling a product to the lekeach with the keli of the moicher, if the moicher says leich uknei b'keli zeh, even though the keli is of a moicher, you have to get that. Now the lekeach made no kinyan because it's considered as if he rented him. It becomes like the keli of the lekeach. So he's saying like this, that he didn't say the words over here leich uknei b'keli zeh. However, whenever they make up a value per number, if I'm the lekeach making a normal kinyan, that's the beginning. I don't need to know how many pounds I lifted. Let's go back to that because we agreed that for every pound, $1. So I lift up whatever I lifted up, and no one can retract. But if it's in the keli of the moicher, but you did measure out. So if you said I'm selling you 30 pounds, until you come to the end of the 30 pounds, both parties can retract. But the moment you gave a small measure, $30 for the 30 pounds, which is $1 per pound. Once you said the words $1 per pound, even though the pound was measured and placed in the keli of the moicher, that's considered the end of the sale. And it's as if he told him, Leich uknei b'keli zeh. Then, like we mentioned, even before you measured out. It's really, when it comes to a normal sale, when the lekeach makes a normal kinyan, all you need prior to the kinyan is an agreement for the price. I don't need to know exactly how much. It's a very big cloud. Like when you go to the supermarket, I'm just giving you a mushroom. So it says how much per pound. I know, not that I go shopping that much in the supermarket, but I know many supermarkets, you put it in the plastic bag. They only weigh it when you come to pay. When you come to pay, I think if the owner is a yid, you're kind already. In other words, I don't know if I have 5 pounds or 6 pounds, doesn't matter. I know the sale. I know that this is my keli, and I made hagbah. Kind it.
Plastic is not your keli.
I made hagbah. I would only say that since the minik hamakim here is that it's only considered final when you pay the money, could be there was no gemiras das because of what we learned in the beginning. Like we began with karka, kesef, shtar, and chazaka. The Rambam says that if you're the makim, that after kesef you write a shtar, you have to write a shtar. But I'm saying conceptually, in other words, the main thing is that you don't have to know exactly how much you're going to owe, as long as you came to an agreement on how much per pound. But whenever it's still in the keli of the moicher, even though sometimes the keli of the moicher can acquire it with the lekeach, you have to know exactly. It has to be more. Halacha ches. So this is a very nuanced pedic. All of it. The next chapter is much simpler. It's being done in a simta. In other words, in an area where Mashiach would be affected. Or even the best, now the measure belongs to the broker. I just want to take a quick step back, guys. Today, everything you buy in a package, like you spoke about plastic bags, they didn't have plastic bags. It was a big thing, like, whose keli is it? So here, the vart is that you had a middleman, a broker, and he brought the keli. So now what do you say? So, Mishin Ismalis, Hamida. One second. We say that what, guys? It still belongs to who? To the moicher. Once that measure utensil was filled, then we say it's considered as it's in the reshus of the lekeach. You know, it's even though we don't know exactly how much is it.
And the sauce is the Mashiach?
No. No one has to do Mashiach here. That's the whole art. That's the whole thing. In other words, if the keli, once that thing was filled, it's considered now the keli of the lekeach, and that was the beginning of the chapter. If the keli of the lekeach is b'reshus Rambam, it's not going to be koina. Keli lekeach is b'simta, or b'reshus shel shneiam, or b'reshus lekeach, it's koina ki yichotz. Ein echad yochalax. Halachanai. Geen peders right tzivurim b'simta. If you have peders that are tzivurim, they're piled. Or b'chotz shel shneiam. Hamida ein shalachad behem. Not, and it doesn't matter if it belongs to the broker. It's not their keli. Same idea. Actually, Nismala Samida Harei Rishus HaMoicher. Misha Nismala Samida Harei Shalokei Halacha Yud. Hoy Hamida Shal Echad Mehem, either of the Moicher or of the Lekeyach. Key, guys, the key all has to be, just go back to the beginning of this chapter. This midah is not with a Rishus HaRabim. It's in a Rishus that will allow the Keli of a Lekeyach to acquire it for the Lekeyach. And also the Chiddush that we learned that even when the Keli is of the Moicher, at some point, it's as if he tells him, Lech uknei b'Keli zeh, it acquires it for the Lekeyach. Now, this measure, Keli, very much like ours. See, we have like glass measuring utensils, and you have these little lines. And from the line, you know, this is a liter, this is 2 liters, this is a half a liter. That's considered measured out enough. Gamaldik. It means even if the Keli belongs to the Moicher, if that's the way this measure utensil is, every mark is as if that's the full Keli. And now that I'm going to give you a new rule, Halacha Yud Aleph, Zeh Klal Gadol Yehei Biyadcha. This should be in your hand. HaKohenes HaMetaltalim. In Pasak Adamim, they came to an agreement on price, and then they made the kinyan kana. He placed it back down, and then they came to an agreement on the price. Or, like we learned, ideal hagba, but if something that you can't do hagba in darka like bia mishicha. In other words, this rule that price must be established prior to the kinyan is a klal gadol, and what we learned before in this chapter is something else. If you establish the price, it's just that you don't know how much you took. Many times you will be kind, but all of that is because it was already established that per pound you're paying $1. I made hagba, I don't know how many pounds. So then it depends. In some cases, it's going to be good, but the price has to be established. Now, based on that, in the klal and Yud Aleph, now the Rambam is going to expand it. What happens if certain places, guys, things have a standard price? Things have a standard price, not like gas, this gas station, this gas station. Certain things, it was a fixed price. In such a scenario, the higbia kano, because even though that the moicher did not say regarding whether he's going to change the price, no, it's established. Pasak only achar she'gbia. And we're speaking about other kinyanim, right? Whether it is, because we already learned, guys, king and chatzir, right? All these new kinyanim. The klal gadol applies. The klal gadol of halacha yud aleph, but also like we learned in halacha yud beis. If something has a standard price, it's already established, as we just explained. And therefore, halacha yud gimel hamoshach chamorim. Person is pasha doing meshicha. There's a donkey driver. There's produce on their animals. There are porters. Umadad actually pasak adamim. Afilo hoya halikechu amoidet, or shepasak adamim. V'achar madad hamoicher. And guys, what we learned above in this chapter is that in such a scenario, when it's not yechevra b'reshus halikeach, when it's not bekelya shalikeach, right? Until you finish filling up the keli, it's not good enough. Very good. All of this is because it's still on the keli of the moicher. So now what? Now you have theoretically what would work as a kinyan chatzir in pasak adamim. V'chakach madad hamoicher ein shnei mechayil lachzer b'hem. Sharei sam chadar kalimko. Ve'im madad actually pasak. So the medida is not effective as a kinyan. Shnei mechayil lachzer. Sharei lisam chadar yaday limkar v'afilu madad halikeach. Gewaldig. Halacha yudal. Hanoitel kelim in hu'umen al menas lavakra. In other words, this is again, you go to a store, this happens today. You pick up something in someone's store, not because you were goimer das to buy it. You want to inspect it. That's the whole, people still shop in stores maybe because of that. You don't want to see it on Amazon. You want to look at it. Im hayadam of ksuvim. It's a big halach, and you picked it up. So in other words, it's keilu. They were already. You know exactly what the price is, and what were to happen if nenas biyadei. So the din is chayiv v'damav. Wow.
You break it, you bought it.
Listen, hoyel v'damav ketsuvim. Me'ei shehigbiyoy nase b'reshusay. I want to add a nuance, Kavan. This is very important. Okay, going back to my example of the supermarket. When a lekeach picks something up to be mavakerit, the lekeach can be chayzer. The moicher cannot be chayzer. Since the moicher cannot be chayzer, if it got destroyed, you got to pay for it. Doesn't it say in certain stores, you broke it, you own it? This is a funny lashon to have an American. I'm curious. I'm curious what to know what the goyish law is. I wouldn't be surprised if the goyim, like in many other places, took it from us. And if they didn't, they're foolish. They should take it from it. It makes a lot of sense. It's davar ktsumim. You made a hagbah. You're not cleaning it because you're still inspecting it. When I go to a store right now, I think if I pick something up, another customer cannot chop it out of my hands, even though I still have the right to put it down. The lekeach can be chayzer, right?
But if you dropped it and it broke, it wouldn't charge you.
The Torah law says that, but it makes sense. So since dam of ksuvim, and I made a kinyan, and the moicher cannot be chayzer, I made a kinyan. I'll deny that if I want, I could retract. But until I retract it, I'm chay b'chreitz.
Unless they have their own standard of customer service.
Correct. No, for sure. Yeah, if you want to make another agreement. I'm curious to know, I really want to know that if I go into a store and when the article is in my hand, even though it's an oinus, the article got destroyed, am I putter to pay from it? I think I'll be chayv to pay.
That way, if you go to a crystal store, there's signs everywhere that says, don't touch, and if you drop a crystal, you have to pay for it.
You drop it, you pay for it. Clear, okay, shkoyach. But what's the halacha behind it? It's all based, I want to tell you, okay, according to Jewish law, if when I pick up a crystal, it's not clear what the price is, I would not be chayiv to pay if it was an oinus. If it would be an oinus. It's based on these rules. Since dam of ksuvim, and I made a kinyan, even though I have the right, the lekeach, the moicher cannot retract. Why can't the moicher retract? Because I made hagbah after dam of ksuvim. It's based on these rules. Now, therefore, I'm chayiv. Sometimes you pick something up and you never even have a havamina to take all of it. That's something else. And but if someone is pushing a sale, in other words, the seller is pushing the sale, but there it has to be different. It has to be a more specified. This is how much you're paying for it. The lekech has to agree to buy it. He has to make a king. Final halacha tezvav echad hamoishach. Or in those areas where chazaka works, this is like a recap, even though it's like this is the second chapter of Kinyanim Metaltalim, but now the Rambam is going back to all of the three chapters: Karka, Avodim, and Behemoths, and Metaltalim. So we gave two Kinyanim, right, like Metaltalim, Kesev and Meshicha. By Karka, we had the three Kinyanim, Kesev, Shtar, and Chazaka. All of these doesn't only mean that if the lekeach made the king and he acquired it, but it's also if I ask someone else to be my shliach to make the king for me, whichever king it is, hagbah, meshicha, la'achzik, equally, and b'chlal you should know that zachin la'adam shaloi medatay. Or the point is, it's not the Rambam is not trying to say only when you ask them to do it. Point is that all of the dinei kinyanim, it makes no difference whether I'm making the kinyan for me or whether I'm making the kinyan for you. They all abide by the same laws. Beautiful. Okay. And now we're starting with a new kinyan. Now I want you to know, Chabra, that the kinyan that we're learning now, we're going to consider this a kinyan derabanan. But when it comes to monetary matters, since hefker best and hefker, not only can they take something out of your possession, but they can actually put it in someone else's possession. So therefore, you have certain kinyanim that are effective, and they can be effective for everything. And the kinyan of this chapter is kinyan chalipin. A kinyan chalipin became such a common kinyan to make that when you learn in Chazal, kinyan stam, you should know, kinyan stam means chalipin. mitzvah, stam, tzedakah. It's amazing. And it's a king in the Rabbanim. Perek Chamishi has 14 halachas, halacha al. Kol hametaltalin koinin zedzeh. No, it's the exchange of any movable property brings about a binding kinyan for both of the movable properties. For example, now I want to say one thing as an intro. There are two types of chalipins. The Rambam is going to begin the chapter with the more common kinyan chalipin, which people understand to be a barter. A barter means two people are exchanging items that they're not going to correct it with money. You know, they have more or less the same value. I have a para, you have a chveis asus, and we both need the opposite. So the vart is going to be that when one person made the kinyan on one, what kinyan? The kinyan that we learned before, Hagbah, Meshicha, Mesira, then it's not only that I acquired the horse. If we agree to exchange, I'm going to get your horse, but I'm going to give you my para, then when I made the kinyan on the horse, you already own the para. That's the simpler type of chalipin, a bona fide barter exchange. As the Pedek will continue, we're going to see that Chachamim says you don't even need to make an exchange by two items that have the same value. And we're going to get into even more nuance. How many times the keli that's used to make the kinyan chalipin goes back. Like when a Rav makes a kinyan sudid when he's selling the chametz. He's not giving the keli away and he's getting something that is shus to sell the chametz, and then he has to make to the next Jew another keli. We're going to learn by kinyan sudid that the moicher can still hold on to it when the other party makes the hagbah. Both can hold on to it. It's a very unusual dinner, but we're not beginning with that. We're beginning first with the concept of chalip. Ketzad, for example, hechlif parat b'chamoy, yayin b'shemen. The Rambam is trying to emphasize that they're both items. The Rambam is not writing clearly that they have exactly the same value, but he's beginning with where one person has one thing, one person has the other thing, and they want to exchange it. And therefore, what might you have thought? You might have thought that if they're making sure, no, I want to have 3 liters of wine against, which in the times of Chazal, Shaman was more expensive, to make equal. So therefore, what you would think, that it has a din of kesed. Now, what did we learn yesterday? This is important, that even though the Rambam paskins but midrabanan mois is not kindness. A sale was only finalized even after money is exchanged, only after you do Mashiach. In other words, if my para, if you would look, I'm giving you a para, you're taking, I want your sus. If my para is the way I'm paying you for your sus, then maybe para has a din of mammon. If paydas would be viewed like money, then I should only acquire your sus after I do Mashiach on your sus. That was the whole takon and Peda Gimel. Chachamim says that even after money is exchanged, still the kinyan is only final when you moishech the item that you're buying. We don't say that by kalip. If I give you cash, it's crazy. Your horse is worth 100. I think my pot is worth 100. You also agree to that. If I give you cash, I'm not kind of your horse. If I give you my potter and you made a king out of my potter, I will be kind of your horse. That's step number 1. Or he be automatically even though he didn't do Mashiach. That's guys, that's the whole Pedic. Now, you can argue, why didn't the Chacham and Danny make the same takana? They didn't. This fear that Shema Yisrefel Chitach Ba'aliyah, I know that Rambam didn't use those words, but that's the words that the Gemara use. They did not make that takana. They only made it by king and kesef. Now, halacha base. What happens? No other details. What happens if hechlet chamoid with 2 animals? A para utleh. Now, there's no doubt, guys, if one guy made the Mashiach on the chamoid, the other one acquired the para and the tleh. There's no chiddush there. What happens in the other direction? The person who's taking the para and the tleh in exchange of the chamoid, but he only made Mashiach on the para and not on the tleh. So then, loikana, she'en kan Mashiach gemora. Understand, Danny, this is important. If it's going to be based on king and sudar that we'll learn soon, we wouldn't say this. But whenever you're making an exchange because you came to the understanding this is worth equal that, then whichever one party has to do Mashiach, the other party already is koine. But the one who does Mashiach must do Mashiach on all of it. Halacha Gimel. Domim she'ein makbid aleim. When one is not precise about the amount of money. Harei hein kishar metaltel v'koilem. Now, this is important, guys. First of all, I want you to know a klal, guys. Just understand the Rambam. Remember that? Ein ma'ois, ein madbeya nasa chalipin. Make that clear. The Rambam in Halacha Gimel is speaking about a kinyan that's going to work b'toiras domim, for example. Harei shechafan ma'ois. A guy scoops up money. V'loy mishko v'loy minyan. And he only took the money from the pile. It's askara means by estimation. Guys, this is not chalipim, Danny. This is domim. Elama, it's not the normal kinyan kesef. Kinyan kesef is it's $29.99. Here, the moicher and the lekeach, they don't even know exactly how much money is being given. Here we go back to the din Torah. The Chachamim we learned in Pei Gimel made up takana that kesef in itself still needs Mashiach, not in such a case. But the kinyan is kinyan kesef. So just like the Rambam says, by kinyan chalipin, one party took the other item was automatically the property of the other side. Same thing is whenever money is being used, money she'ena makbid. Allah chadal. The kol nashim and amataltalin, which is the way you got to do it. No, we're doing Mashiach, we're doing Hagbah, and now Mashiach in itself closed the deal. And now, as we learned in Pei Gimel, then it's chayv b'damim. So who Shimon owes money, right, to the Uven. Later, Shimon decides, listen, I have yayin, I have a behema, I have an evid. And Shimon wants to sell it. And he tells to the Uven, listen here, I owe you 50 zuz. You want to buy my yayin. You know what? My yayin is worth 50 zuz. The moment he says yes, you know, we're going to view this guy's retroactively as a king in Chalipin. No, it's Shimon was Moishech the Metaltalin. Turns out it's going to be in exchange of the wine. Beautiful. And therefore, the takana chachamim that we learned in Pei Gimel was not set on something unusual. But the Medvar guys, this is all when they ended up making an exchange. I mean, Shimon bought and now Shimon is selling. If Shimon owes the money, not because Shimon bought something which he made Mashiach. Any other debt, it can be whatever. It doesn't matter whether it was a loan, whether it was a worker. Even though both parties agreed, why? Because this is a davar matzui. And every davar matzui, the Chachamim made a takana that even though monies were exchanged, you got to make a kinyan on the metal. What's the exception to that? First of all, kinyan chalipin, and then if it's a scoop of money, if later, after a sale is made, the payment is later agreed upon to be with another metaltalin, that's considered a davar she'ena matzui. Now, atkan halacha hey, this kinyan chalipin is effective for what? Don't think it's only effective for metaltalin. Says the Rambam halacha hey akarkois wa'avodim ba'abehemu sharkolam everything. Kol echad mehem nikna bechalipin, and not only that, and v'hu hanikra kinyan. It became known as the kinyan. How great is that? Now the iked haderech hazois. Whenever you speak about a kinyan, so let me say that Rambam begins to say when you're making a sale of karka, right? When it comes to a par and a chamoyer, I get it; they have the same value. Once they began using this kinyan, when it comes to karka is worth a lot of money. What do you think they made? They made chalipin. Guys, what do you think they did? They said they gave the guy 1,000 barrels of wine, which is what the karka is worth. No, they began to use, let's use a symbolic kinyan on on any item to affect the king and chalipin. The ikir haderech hazois sheyitem hakoina lamakna. You get what's going on over here? The buyer wants to get something without needing to make mashicha, Rabbi Chaim, without needing to make a chazak. Even if I'm buying your land, I don't want to give you kesef, no shtar, no chazak. As long as the keli is coming from me, I'm the buyer, and I give it to you, and we're going to see later that I will get it back. If it's the norm that when I give you something to make the kinyan sudr, I get it back, nothing wrong with that. And we're going to see later, I don't even have to let go of it. It's not that I have to mamish give it to you. We have to do an action. Gemiras, there's Gemiras das.
It belongs to who?
To me. So I'm saying very important.
The seller or the buyer?
The one who, it has to be an exchange. Like if you're giving the Rav permission to sell your chametz, you're giving the Rav something. The Rav has to give you his. Even though what the Rav is giving, he'll get back. Even though we'll see, he doesn't even have to let go of it. But you have to hold on to it enough. We'll learn details. Look. So here, I'm buying your land. Yeah, I can make kesef shtar and chazaka. That we know from Perek Aleph. I'm not doing that. As long as you're giving me your land, and I owe you $1 million. But to affect the exchange, I'm giving you something of mine. I'm giving it to you, and you're giving me your land. Now I'm chayiv to pay you the $1 million. It's an action. It's an action. It's an action, and that's the whole beginning of the whole chizmechira. We have gemiras das, but you have to do it. We're doing an action, and that's in the category of chalipin because it's an exchange. And it can be kosher. The yoimer loy, but it has to be clear. The yoimer loy, it's I'm the buyer. That in my case, I have to tell you, I want you to acquire this gartel in exchange of your yard. Now I'll make myself a good deal. No, of course not, because we are agreeing that I owe you the money. And it works for karka, it works for yayin, it works for behemoth, it works for evet. And you say, listen, the sale is for $1 million. The sale is for $1,000. I'm not finagling out of the shield to pay. Nor any other kinyan. I just want you to know that this kinyan is a midrabban. That's why, why didn't the Rambam mention this in the beginning? When the Rambam writes in the Perek Rishon that karka is nikta b'kesef shtar b'chazaka, that's very nice. Halacha vav. Ein koinin ela b'kli. Af al pi she'ein bo yishava pruta. Every word is gold here, guys. And by the way, you can already appreciate how we're coming soon into the whole Perek Hazov. Perek Hazov is a hard Perek. That's going to be today's third chapter. Today's third chapter, Perek Shishi. But the what's going on there? You can make a king in chalipin. You have to use a keli. Remember that. Another rule: when I say a keli, I cannot use peiris. I cannot use produce. It's not davar hamiskayim. I cannot use a coin. It's very important. The ein koinen the killer shall moicher ela b'kli alekeach. That's the main thing. You know, like I want to go back just a little bit to kedushin, right? When you make a vart. So by us in Lubavitch, the minig is, and I'm sure by many others, that the gartel should come from one of the eidim. Let me say what it cannot come from the chas. He's giving something. He's giving his word. Yeah, there has to be an exchange. He has to be receiving something. And you should explain to him that I'm make a kinyan on this gartel, and in exchange, give your word that you're going to the chup. In exchange, give your word that you're going to keep the obligations of the ksuba. And then I'm lifting it up. I'm getting this, and I'm giving you my word. Now it's not dvarim. Now I made a king. Halacha zayin. Hikna echad klila moicher. Kedei sheikna halakeh choisa mimkar. Another detail. The moicher is selling the land. Danny Halkov, it's very important halachas. The keli doesn't have to come from the lekeach. That's crazy. So I'm buying your land. So first of all, I give you this in exchange. Even though we're going to see later, I get this back. You know that. But I don't even have to be, you're selling me the land. Someone else can give you a keli and I'm going to acquire the land. Just like we learned at the end of the last chapter. He can make a keli, he can make a kinyan for me. He's making the kinyan for me. Now another din. The keli that's used to the moicher, that is not a keli that the moicher gets to keep. Even if it's clear, I'm giving it to you and I'm taking it back. There has to be an exchange. It's not fair. So it works with the instrument that the keli that, let's say, I'm buying, that I gave you. I gave it to you, but it's viewed as a matana manas lahas. Another detail. Even normally you make hadbah, you got to lift the whole thing. You didn't do that. You only were achas miktsasai. And even worse, the makna is the lekeach, the makna is me. I'm still holding on to it. Normally, if I hold on to an item, that in itself shows that I'm not giving it to you. Doesn't matter here. Kano lekeach. That Rambam will explain what that means. It means you, the seller, right? You're giving me your land. You have to hold on to enough of it. Or you're holding on to it enough that if you were to try to chop it out of me, you would be able to do so. And the Rambam will explain. Only mix us a beged. Let's say we're using a beged. So I'm the lekeach, guys. I have a shmaten, and I'm giving it to you. I owe you the money for the land, but this is the kinyan. If you grab onto you, the makna, hold on to some of it. At least 3 etzbois. What's the magic of 3 etzbois? Guys, we learned this many times. 3 etzbois in itself, dinoi beged, dinoi kebeged. Or okay, if all you have is this, that's called a beged. Obviously, if it's out of either wool or linen and not any other material, called keli. Now, even more, you're kidding when a Rav uses a gartel. The guy doesn't hold on to 3 etzbois. It doesn't matter, because if I'm making a kinyan with you, Yakin, you hold on to my gartel, you can grab it away from. In other words, don't grab it like this. That you can't do. But if you hold on to enough of it, even if it's not a 3 etzbois, but you chopped it, if you want, you can tug a war with me, then it's good.
The pruta value, does that only apply to utensils or to everything?
I missed that, Kevin.
All right, in Vav, we said the utensil has to be worth.
Only to the clay of chalip. Only to the clay of chalip. Doesn't need, I said, the keli, it cannot be money, it cannot be payers, it has to be a keli, even though it's not worth a prut. You see, I would call this symbolic. But you're doing a maisa. You're doing the most minimum of the minimum of a maisa. Halacha 8. That's the nusach that you write on the star. Now the Rambam is explaining every word is meduyak. The keli is to emphasize that they made a kinyan, right? You write in the ksub vikonina. That's, you see, and now we just learned vikonina. How do you know that it's kinyan sudar? Because whenever you write the words kinyan stam means kinyan sudar, which is mamash what everyone does today. And you write bikli because you can't use pages. The word kasher is lohoitzi surana. Liknois boy lohoitzi, that it was not lechatchila the keli of the moicher. Ochanaim zeh hakinyan. Like what we learned in the first 3 chapters of Hilchas Mechida, that Bachal by dinim mamanis, Eidim are not Eidikiyum. And that applies to this kinyan as well. Ella im ben chaveidoi equally kana. If God forbid someone is a koifer means he's going to deny that this transaction took place. So to prove yourself right in a base, then Eidei Raya, Eidei Birur, you need Eidei. All of these transactions, when you do the right kinyan, ain't tzarech Eidin. Even shekana hakoyim v'derech v'nadrachim shekana b'hem bein b'hagba bein b'meshicha bein b'mesira bein b'kinyan. Now you have the word kinyan. Kinyan means kinyan sudar. Oy b'kesef oy b'shtara b'chazaka, which is by karka kana Afal pi she'ein sham edim. Halacha yud hamoicher oya noisen. Shekanu miyadoi. Guys, just become familiarized. Kanu miyadoi means king and chalipin. Once they made the kinyan, another din. Listen to this. Don't fall off your chair. Yesh l'chol echad mehem lachzer kol zman sha'asukam v'oisa inyan. This type of kinyan sudir, if they are still involved in that topic, both of them can retract. Afal pi shakinyan b'fnei. Only after hifzikon inyan ein echad mem yochal lachzer boy. Afal pi she'ein b'neim edim. Uchashem shechoyzer ha-moichel v'hanoisen ka-choyzer ha-lekech ha-makabel kol zman sha'asukam inyan. This is very important. In other words, when you're making a kinyan, all the other kinyanim are final. I'm not going into the topic whether you can make a chazor or teich the but I'm not even going there. You make a kinyan, you're done. Kinyan suda, the one, not the first kinyan exchange that we spoke in the beginning of the Pedic, not the potter for the chamor. No, that's fine. We're speaking about this kinyan that it's just something of minimum value. And the item that the lekeach is giving to the moicher, it's a matan al manas lahachser. The moicher didn't even lift it up by himself. I lifted it up together with you. It works, but there is still room to retract when you're asukim ba'ising. This big.
You still say I'm not going to the
okay, I want to add something. That, first of all, you can always say that. Yeah, it's good to know that. It's important to know that, which is what makes your going to the chuppah more meaningful. But maybe by kedushin, it's different. Just like you can't be chayzer, even toich kedibur, by the actual giving of the kedushin, could be a kinyan, could be. I'm saying, he described this type of kinyan. It's final, but it's not final. Halacha Yudal. Now, yesh devarim harbe. This is she'ein tzarichem kinyan, and if people actually make a kinyan, zos to wissen zan ve'ein lo kinyan bahem tam. For example, if a person is committing to mimeshachar this eved, or hamagarish es ishtoi, or ha'ois shliach, or if a person is going to be moisim, or a person is going to issue a protest that he feels like he's being coerced into making a sale. We're going to learn dinim about this later. So prior to that king, and he's moiser my dog that I'm doing that under duress. Or if you're being mavachel on my dog, or if you're being moichel l'chaver chayv, or if you're being moichel a pekadum sheyesh labiyadai. The chol kayotze bedvarim elu, making these types of commitments or these types of forgiveness does not demand a kinyan. Nevertheless, says that I'm Allah Yud Beis, Nahagu Roiv Amakaimas, yes, Lahaknois, to at least some of the items that we mentioned above. And Lahaknois means by making a king and Sudar. And Va'oimlim, even though it was not needed, V'koninu mi pleni she'asa pleni shliach. So I can appoint you a shliach. If I says you are my shliach, I don't need to make a kinyan. Nevertheless, some people were noyeg to make a kinyan. Which is, by the way, an amazing thing. Just remember, mechilas hachoyv is fully effective without any kinyan. Still, some people would make a kinyan. Even though the Rambam says, just because you see people making such kinyanim, in other words, guys, understand something. If you have something tangible that's being transferred from one reshus to another reshus, that is where you need to have a kinyan. If there's nothing tangible that's being transferred, me making you my shliach is not, I'm not transferring something tangible. Me being moichel achoiv, I'm not transferring anything. I'm saying leave it the way it is. Whenever there's no transference of a physical item, a kinyan is not needed. Halacha Yud Gimel. Kinyan session on hagul haknus be'elu advarim, being that it's not needed, ain't a moyel. The only thing is, sometimes a person can say, I was only kidding with you. Sometimes you'll have the right to say that. You make a kinyan, you'll lose that right. So there is a certain halachic effect. And therefore, the Rambam says if a person is making a mechila, for example, and it's a large amount of money, but he says, "Beleif shalom ani omer the gamarti las davar zeh," then the Rambam says, "Ein tzarich davar acher klal." The Rambam is really saying, don't make kinyanim where it's not needed. Some people have a minig that Rambam is like trying to justify it, that has some effect. There are certain settings in which there is zero need. If you're not transferring a davar mamashi mirashus l'rashus, no kinyan. And the final halacha in this chapter, halacha Yudalid, hadvarim she'ein behem mamish, words that are not mechayiv money, ein hakinyan moyel behem klum. Even if you made a kinyan, for example, ketzad hareisha kosev b'shtar. That what? A shtar is like a kinyan. You're writing in a shtar. Koninu mitloini, that I will go and do business with you. You hear, guys? I'm making a commitment, not about a specific money mesuim. I'm going to do business with you. It's zero. Now, the Rambam is not going into the fact people should keep the word. You have to understand this. You have to really chafetz. And not only did I make a commitment, I made a kinyan and I wrote it in a document. And tomorrow, I'm going to say, I don't want to do business with you. I'm a chuyev. It's not shaykh to make a kinyan on it. We own a chatzar, and we made a commitment to divide our partnership, or we made a commitment. This is what Chazal call kinyan devarim. Kinyan means we're making a kinyan regarding to a verbal commitment. And by the way, you know what that includes, Danny? I'm going to the chuppah. Okay. Maybe it's different. Maybe I'm going to the chuppah, something different. It's something more specific. It's like we're going to do business together. We're going to be partners together. It wasn't clear enough. That's the key. If we're making a commitment, I'll tell you something. Remember these cases? I'm making a kinyan that the produce of this palm tree will belong to you. If not for the issue that ein adam makin davar shaloi bala olam, let's remove that. Let's say, for example, that they already began to bud. That's a future commitment. It's effective because it's something specific. That's the word. Any verbal commitment that's not specific, not shaykh to make a kinyan, will become partners. That doesn't mean anything. In today's final chapter, Perek Shishi, we're going to learn about how to make a kinyan on money. So what did we learn in the previous chapter? We learned in the previous chapter, Danny, that when it comes to kinyan sudar, when it comes to two metaltalin items, when one takes possession of one, automatically it's a two. Both items are exchanged with a kinyan. What happens if I want to make such an exchange? B'negei money. Is money like a metaltalin, or is money different? And we're going to learn that's Perek Hazov, and we're going to learn that really all coins compared to Pedis dinoi kikesef, but in coinages themselves, since silver was the common currency that was used, gold compared to kesef is considered Pedis versus kesef, and Pedif and kesef have different rules, as we're going to learn, and including in this chapter is going to be what happens if I want to sell you a debt that's owed to me. And we'll see the big difference whether I'm selling a debt that's not documented, whether I'm selling a debt that is documented. But it's about making a kinyan for money, making a kinyan for a debt. So halacha Perek Shishi has 16 halachas. Halacha out. Ha-Pedis. The Rambam is saying that when you're using an item to make a kinyan sudar, that has to be, he said, a keli, not Pedis, not Beis. Pedis cannot be used as the article through which you make the kinyan. But hareyim niknin the kinyan kashar metaltalin. So if Yakir, you have a pile of apples. If I give you my shmata as a kinyan sudar, then I don't even have to make hagbah meshicha. No, because I made a kinyan sudar. Pedis cannot be used, but they could be acquired. Money. Not only can money not be used as the sudar, it has to be a sudar, not a money, cannot be used for the chalipin. It cannot be acquired through the chalipin. So if you have $100 in your house and I want it to belong to me, and I make a kinyan suda with ashmata. So we said chalipin works for everything, not for madbeya, not for money. Nimsa hamadbeya is unique. Not eina nikna bekinyan, the eina nasa hu atzmei kinyan liknas v'shadavarim. So the last line we learned in the previous chapter in Perikei, but eina nikna bekinyan. So now we have to define what's money. So l'shoyin shol zav shol kesed. If you have blocks, right? You have of gold and silver. That's not called money. That's not money. It's as if it would be a block of iron, and it's just metaltalin and v'harkol kashar metaltalin. Hey, and you know what we say? It's not paydas. It also could be used for the kinyan suda. You know, it's v'niknin b'kinyan. They can be used, right? They can be acquired through chalipin, and not only that, the koinen zedzeh b'achlafa. If I have a block of silver, you have a block of gold. No, this is normal kela. However, aval hamadbeyo ishal kesed, or the not enough gold or money of copper. Now we're going to come back to these three: silver, gold, and copper. But all of these three, if they are minted compared to everything else, all of them are called mabeh. And the meila halach back to halacha aleph. Hanoisenes echad mehem the mei metaltalin loikana, because that's the din of kesav is not kleina. Achi yagbia or yimshor kamei shabiyar not in pei gimel. That we already learned. But more than that, the ein echad mehem niknin not bekinyan chalipin v'loy nas kinyan. It's considered bona fide madbeya. That both silver, not avada silver, that even gold, that even copper are considered madbeya. That's only bisman shekoine shar mataltalin be'echad min madbeyas elum. When it's being used to buy anything else, it's being used to buy avodim karkois. However, what happens if there's an exchange between silver coins and golden coins, between copper coins and golden coins? Upa. Aval hadidarim shel zav l'gabei madbeya shel kesef. You know what we say? We say that in that comparison, the dinarim of zav are like paydas. Now, guys, paydas cannot be used as the kinyan suda. That I got. But you know what we do say? I'll tell you, Yakir. If I give you silver coins, and you took my silver coins, so normally if I'm buying, one second, if I took your golden coins, if I took your golden coins, the silver belongs to you. For example, that if I took your gold, let's say that's the exchange rate. And the truth is, it doesn't matter if you're paying the right rate, but that was the agreed exchange. Now, whoever took the money, what did we learn in Pei Gimel? If I took your kesev, the kinyan is not done yet. But the one who took the gold, even though gold relative to everything else is cash, it's not madbeya. So I took the metaltalin. Now I owe you the kesev, but no one can be chayzer anymore. Nikna ha-kesev afal pishadayin lebo ha-kesev b'yodai. Gavaldik. And now v'chayiv ditin lechamishav esem dinar shal kesev, which is what they agreed to. With all the details, it's binding. If they agree that I have to give you 25 new silver coins, I have to give you that. If I can even get away, all that has to be specified prior to the kinyan. The kinyan was made on the coins of gold, but we're going to view the coins of gold as the metaltalin. But in the other way around, no, it's what was exchanged was only the money, the real money. We learned in Pei Gimel. The kinyan is not done yet. But then there is of and therefore, even though again, just to mention that after money is exchanged, since the bar trade moist kindness, there's going to be a mishapara, which we'll learn about later. Similarly, let's go.
Question.
Yes.
it's using this term that the more valuable coin is like peters, right? Whereas the silver coin is
not about more valuable. The copper is less valuable. It's about silver is
But
kesef.
it's not as frequently used, right?
Yes.
Why do you think peters? We said before that peters, that the term peters can't be used in Challah. And now we're talking that we're comparing it to peters. Why would we care to just like some item that you have? You know what I mean? It produce specifically.
No, I'll tell you why. Because he's trying to say that the gold cannot be used to affect a king in Chalipin. But since the gold is the metaltalin, in any sale where one person is giving money and the other guy is getting metaltalin, taking the metaltalin, even though it's paytas, which means it can never be used for the king in Sudan, but it finalizes the sale. That's why he's saying paytas. B'diuk. No, it's gold coins and copper coins can never be used as an instrument to affect a king in Stamas, king in Sudan. That's the key. But it's considered paytas as metaltalin. At least, even though it's only paytas, not a keli, but it's considered paytas as metaltalin. Hey, and the same thing will be with copper. Guys, this is Pedek Hazon. That no, so shloishim isur shol nechoishes, but dinner shol kasev. There's another hint that Rambam is talking about. This is not the normal exchange. That's another chiddush. It doesn't matter if they agreed for this exchange. Then once one party took the copper, nikna hadiner shol kasev. No, it's the Mashiach was only done on the nechoishes. And even though it was an unusual exchange rate, and with all the other pratim and dinar chadash v'yasham, and not the other way around. That was the agreed amount. But if what was exchanged was the silver coin, that was paid a gimel. Money does not finalize a kinyan. And therefore, technically, everyone can be chayzer, even though they get a mishapar. Halacha ba. Because we're trying to sometimes say that ma'ois doesn't have a din of matbeya. So not only is gold and copper only relative to silver, not matbeya. Ma'ois rois. What's that ma'ois rois? Shepsolatan amalchus. No, you have the face of a certain king. There's a new king, and the king outlawed the old currency. In other words, in another country you're good, not over here. I think that's important because many places there's something called a black market. No, there's no black market here. The only way to use it now, does it have value? Of course, because the coinage were made out of metals that would melt it down and make new coins. No, that's the whole point. The point is that it has a din of an item of value, but not of matbeya. The nickname bekinyan, the koinen es amois, but the enamois koinen es oisam kishar kol apeiros. Okay, that's great. Now, Hamadeya, therefore, based on the above, halacha zayin, guys, ainly derech sheyiskabay misha ene bereshusay. So that's the case, Danny. In other words, you cannot use the matbeya that was paid a K to affect a king in Chalipin. You cannot acquire it through king in Chalipin. So how do you acquire it? You have to take it, right? Only when you take it. Hold on. But there's another king called King Agav, which, by the way, is also a king in Midraban. I want to step back. I said a few times that king in Chalipin is Midrabanan. I put a question mark on that. Go check out. I want to know if that's correct. Maybe king in Chalipin is Doirais. King in Agav is Midrabanan. Okay, now he said again. Huh? All right, it could be. I'm right. Could be. I'm right. Good English. The king in Agav is Midrabanan. You see, that works. King in Agav works. Look how great is that. Keep going. And with all the ditum that we learned, we already learned king and Agav, right? By the way, it doesn't mean it has to be on top of it, right? If it's not sevurim b'toichai, there has to be more verbalizations from the moicher to the lekech, but it works. And then we say, kiv and shulach b'karka. And how will you zoicha bekarka? The kesef, you see, by metaltalin, the Chachamim says kesef is not final. For karka kesef, the makim where they don't always write a star. So if I'm giving you matbeyos, I want you to be koined. If I'm giving it agaf karka and you made a kinyan kesef karka, this is so good. Or kinyan sudir, then zocha b'mois. The who sheyeh oisan amois kayomin. Which means, what is the Rambam trying to say with that? He's explaining what it cannot be. That means, guys, that Shimon owed money to Reuven. Shimon owes money to Reuven. Get that clear. And the Hikna, so Reuven has money coming to him, but it's not there. Now we're going to begin speaking about transferring a debt. But this is not money. If you owe me money, I don't have the money. You don't have the money. I want to, instead of you owing it to me, I want you to owe it to him. And I'm going to say, how can I do it? Kinyan agav. It's not going to work. The hikne, this is Reuven. Reuven is making a kinyan. To Levi. Karka. For which Levi can make a kinyan for. And I'm saying, I'm the guy. I'm saying, and va'al gabo choyv sheyesh l'siman, the Rambam writes, Yeroli shalei kana choyv.
It doesn't come across very certain.
Because nowhere the Rambam writes that wherever it was not clear in the whole Torah Shabbat Peh. We just said Gavaldik. Matbeya is only changes ownership when it goes miyat liyat. Then he says no, King and Agav, which is great. Then he's saying King and Agav is only if there's money, there's actual physical money. A choiv bal peh. It's not physical money. Now there's even an exception to this. Maimut Shloshtan. This is so good. The way that Rambam organizes everything. Remember the Maimut Shloshtan? Means if you owe me money, let's say I owe you money, when we're all standing together, I can say, pay him. Now, now, by the way, it's not even if I owe you money. If we're standing together, I don't need King and Agav. And by the way, this is a din she'en lo tam. Based on the rules above, it should not be able to work. But if we're standing together, and in this case, Rabbi Chen, you owe me money, let's say, and not that I owe Yakir. I don't owe anything. I want to give him a gift. But we're all together, and I say that the money, I have $100 by you, doesn't matter how it is. And I tell you, listen to these words, guys. It's a word. No kinyan was done. Kana Levi. Says the Rambam, the Chachamim said, it doesn't follow all of the rules we learned until now. Only in this case does it work, and therefore,
But what if
it's called the halacha yotze doifen.
the third person, you know for a fact it doesn't have the collateral to pay it back?
It doesn't matter.
So I can just stand next to someone that I owe you money.
We're speaking about transferring the debt. If Rabbi Chaim owes me money, it doesn't matter how. If I want to gift it to you, or if I
not gifted, say you owe me money, and Rabbi Chaim owes you money. Can you tell Rabbi Chaim pay Yakir and I don't owe Yakir anything?
You have to agree to it.
Oh, but here's the.
No, here's a gift. Here's a gift.
You said Ben Malveh, Ben.
No, it's how Rabbi Chaim. Why does Rabbi Chaim owe me money? It doesn't matter how he owes me the money. He can owe me the money because I loaned him the money. He can owe me the money because I gave him a pikad and I gave him my wallet.
Right, but I'm saying when the third person.
The third person, in this case, a matana. Okay. Now halacha tes. Let's go back to the names of the Rambam. So Reuven owes Shimon 100 zuz, and va'amar leLevi 10 Reuven owes Shimon. I'm asking someone to pay my debt. Reuven owes Shimon. He tells Levi 10 l'Shimon zeh meyazuz. I owe it, not you, and I'll be pay you. Lay it out for me. Or the words were Ache ese imcha cheshboin. Yeah, you're gonna pay it. I'll have to. In other words, Levi doesn't owe anyone anything. And here, the Levi says yes. What's also important, that's what you were trying to say, Yakir. And Shimon was agreed. Because here, I owe Shimon money. Maybe Levi, he doesn't trust Levi. If Shimon said yes, and the one to whom the money is owed, the kibel, kol echad mishloshen yochol achzavay. The Rambam is trying to point out, don't apply mamad shloshen to any other case. Now, hold on. I want to tell you what chazara means. One thing is clear, Danny, that if you laid out the money, I owe you the money. No one is debating that. You were makabel to pay the 100 zuz. If you paid 50, then I owe you that 50. But I owe you the original 50. And not that since he said yes, and you were masking, I get to tell you, I don't have to deal with you. That's the word here. It's not a king, and it's not finalized. The other mixas is not owed by him to you. I owe it to you. Lefikach im lepara Levi l'Shimon, Chayzer Shimon v'teveru uva m'sharchav. You come back to me, even though everyone agreed. Halacha yud. Hamoichesh tarchav l'chaveinoim. So Atkan was an oral that. Now it's going to be a little bit different. Now we're speaking about a document. There's actually a document, and I'm selling the document. It's called a factor. That's what everyone does in business. You're selling a debt. You're selling a note. Whether I'm selling it, whether I'm giving it in as a gift. So you have to know the oisi. Remember this? Ein oisios niklas b'mesira. Ein oisios niklas b'mesira. Because the shtar doesn't have an inherent value. It's representing a debt. There'll be enough steps that will make this an effective sale, but there has to be more than the usual steps. Ein niklas b'mesira shalo yodai. That's not enough, because shalei machar ela haraya shaboy. Because what do you want, Yakir? If I'm selling you the note, what do you want? You don't want the note. You want the debt. You understand that the document is only a proof that there is a debt. So it's not enough. Normally, you make a kinyan on it's not an item, but it's not nothing. It's not enough. The ein hara'ayin nispeses beyad. Is that expression? So now what should you do? The case said yikna hashtar. So in addition to giving over the note, there has to be another document written.
So if the note is
not enough.
What is it?
Oh, it represents. It's a raya. So listen. It's gavaldik. So let's again. Someone owes me money. I want to give it to you, or I want to cash out now. It doesn't matter whatever the deal between us. I'm giving this over to you. I have to write a document that I'm giving you the note, and then I have to give you the note. That document and the note, beide. I'm the seller, or let's say I'm the creditor. No, someone owes me money. So I'm writing to you, see, when I write what I'm trying to point, I'm writing I'm not giving you the document. I know that the document only represents a chayv. I'm selling you the chayv. And then the original shtar. Now you have both the writing of a new document and you have Mesira of the original document. Beautiful. And that's an effective kinyan. And as we have been learning, all of the kinyanim, you don't need Edom. It's only Edom Biro. However, when it comes to the collection, yeah, if I'm going to deny that I gave it to you, you'll need to have Edom. You're going to go now over to my debt, to the guy that owes me the money. You're going to need to have Edom, because if you don't have Edom, he's going to tell you he doesn't know you.
I don't see it. The start.
That's right. Okay, that's what he needs to say.
You owe the money. You have another start that he.
You have to have Edom. That's why you need to have Edom. Start with Edom. He can say Mezuyif. In other words, it's just an eye. It's just to open up the door. You know, the guy, Danny, he's saying that I didn't write it.
Not denying the debt, just denying the.
You know, it's my handwriting. He can say, I wrote it, but then I never came through with it. So when you have Eidei Mesira, that's an ayah that he'll need. Danny, in many cases, my guy that owes me the money won't challenge. If I told him, if he believes me, You say it's just a debir. It takes away the possibility for him to say that this debt was never handed over. Halacha Yud Beis. Kinyan Ashtar is Kaderach Hazois, by doing writing and giving over the original document, is Midivrei Soifim. Abol min hatoiram ein harayis niknois at all. There's no way to acquire the proof of an obligation. Elo gufa davar hakonim bilvad. It's an object can be transferred. An object, a debt is not a mamoshistic thing. Since the fact that it's effective is only midrabanan, which means on a biblical level, let's go in my case, someone owes me money. Biblically, the debt is owed to me. I can really wrong you by being moichel this. Now, if I do that, you paid me money, I owe you money. I'm a mazik. Fine, but I can be moichel the choish. Afilu yarshay is allowed to be moichel. Halacha Yud Gimel. Let's go more about that. A woman who's married, right? Even if this is going to be in the category of nechsem aloik, which means that during the marriage, she doesn't mamish own it. The husband has a hand in it. So even though we're saying that a person can always be moichel their debt, that's if I sold it to you, I can still be moichel the debt. But if a woman gets married and she's moichel the debt, it won't be effective. Why? It's mentioned yesterday that
same page with your wife.
Not about it. She has to have her husband with, if you're walking a chassan down to the chuppah and your chap, the chassan doesn't have a ring. They're already walking to the chuppah. So you need to buy, the chassan has to buy a ring. But a ring that he's going to give to a scholar is going to be a woman's ring. Who has a woman's ring? A married woman. The halach is that when you're going to go there and you're going to ask a woman, Bitsino, I need a favor, you have to sell the ring, even though I might try to get it back to you, but it has to be a sale. She has to have her husband with her.
It's happened that I was just that.
Also. And not only that, I did it. But you get it from the wife, you make a kinyan with the wife, you make a kinyan with the husband, in front of the husband. Because that's he has to own it. Okay, right. Yes. Now let's go to kinyan agav. This is so good. So just like we began about Matbeya ain't a nickname bechalipin, but yeah, kinyan agav. Let's go about a document. Can you now be transfer a debt through kinyan agav? Like al gabashtar choiv says the Rambam hadeza kanashtar b'chalakim shuhu b'leksiva le'mesida. The fact that you have to have these two steps are not needed by kinyan agav. You know why, Danny? Because kinyan agav is also only midrabanan. That's anything that's only midrabanan. We say that since midoraisa. I want to go back to the kinyan chalipin. I want to find out if kinyan chalipin is doraisa derabanan. I know it's divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Kabbalah, right? Boyas. You have to look on Google, but you have to know how you view divrei Kabbalah here. No, it's the kinyan chalipin is sourced from Boyas, from Nach. Normally, that's not on the level of doraisa. But maybe that's only recorded there. Doesn't mean that's not midorais. Now we're speaking about the document itself. Now, the Rambam is not going into the details, but I want you to know that when you buy something, you can buy it without having it documented, and you can buy it with having it documented. So you're buying land, and you want it to be documented. But you're not there to get the document. If you make a kinyan on the karka, what's going on over here? Through kinyan agav, you acquired the document. And Allah tezvav, ha'omer zechu b'sad azul ploini, v'kis v'lo yasashtar. So someone asked someone else to do two things: to acquire the karka for someone else and to write a document. He can still say, I'm not going to give you the document. because the document was not transferred over yet. Even though he made a kinyan on the chazaka, which just means, guys, it means that this guy will own the land, but it won't be a documented transference, and there's going to be many nafkaminas that we'll get to later. And the final halacha in this chapter, halacha tezayin, amalahem. But since it's almanas shetich lo yashtar, until